Great. Big time each.
I'm not an introvert, I just don't like to speak at you. I can socialize with anybody. Friday here now. Oh, it's pretty cool. Private, yeah, it's like here. I think it's just pretty cool. Everybody has something different.
Will we be blocking your view?
Not at all. Counseling first. Just and then she said, "Will you come to this?" Yeah. I just told you I'm an introvert, right? How am I going to know it's introvert? Oh, please tell me you got another.
Yeah. How about you? Steve's in here yet.
Good evening. We're going to go in and get this started. But first, before we start with the council meeting, we have to open this meeting up for the public hearing for property tax rate. So, is there, was she?
She's at the table.
Oh,
She's at the
Tracy, you over there? Okay. Madam Clerk, is anyone has any comment to make about the property the tax rate?
No, sir, no one contacted me.
Okay, let the record show that there was no one to want to express to the council on that, so we'll go and close that, and I will now open the city council for October the 9th, 2023 open. If everyone please stand. We'll have a moment of silence. Thank you. I would ask Councilwoman Conway if she would lead us in the pledge.
Yes.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. At this time, you do roll call.
Mr. Allen?
Here.
Mrs. Wilkins Brett?
Here.
Mrs. Butcher Conway?
Here.
Mrs. Hambrick?
Present.
Mr. Hampton?
Here.
Mr. Showalter?
Here.
Mr. Stone?
Here.
Mrs. Tackett?
Here.
Let the record reflect that all was present. I need a motion for the approval of minutes.
So moved.
Motion is made by Mr. Allen, second by Ms. Hambrick. Are there further questions and/or comments or discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say likewise. You should have received the check registry. If you have received those, please raise your hand. Let the record show that all has received. At this time, public comments, and I think I had one, and please, I hope I don't mess your name up. Is it Amber or?
Hi, okay, so I'm just here to talk to you about the rezoning of the Washington Street property, and I think maybe I wasn't supposed to sign unless you guys want to talk to me. They told me to be here, so I signed in at all the other meetings if they needed to talk to me, I had to sign in.
Okay, all right, thank you. So there any others at this time? If no others, the mayor comments. I don't have a lot of comments to make. First of all, to remind you all of you people who are trick-or-treaters, and if you're gonna wear your clown outfit, it's gonna be on October 31st, and it'll be from 6 to 8 p.m. So trick or treat will be on the 31st, 6 to 8 p.m. We are here tonight to, as always, is that this council is always open for good dialogue, and it's our job and charge to make sure that we look at all avenues, especially when it comes to revenue and conducting of business. And like I said, we're always going to be open to healthy dialogue with the public and being able to come up with some ways in which we can do what's best for everybody. And we know that always, sometimes people are not going to like what we do and what we're going to say, and that's understandable. But we still want to be open, and that, you know, any decision to be made, before we do that, we're going to make sure we do our due diligence to get all information out to everyone, all the stakeholders. We will have a dialogue with the stakeholders before we taking it to council for a final vote. And that's what we do, and that's what we're always going to do here. We don't try to make no rash decisions, because we know that making rash decisions without actually doing the homework creates problems, and which no one needs. So that being keeping in mind, want to at this time have committee reports, and I believe it's a police report.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor. On October the 2nd, we did have our police committee report. Mayor Jenkins, Finance Director Clark, myself, Council Member Hambrick, Chief Allgood, and Captain Lodell were present. Talked about staffing, hiring, and recruiting. We are currently 60 of 68 slots filled. We have 16 candidates that are slated to take the written test on October the 11th, so hopefully we'll get some that will pass the test out of that and move on to the physical agility section. We do have one certified and one non-certified in the background phase. We do have a former officer that is returning back to us. Bill Denton is returning back to Georgetown Police Department after taking a couple other jobs and wanted to come back, so he is in the process of coming back. According to Chief Allgood, the possibility is having the department at full strength by December is very real. Just have to look and see how the testing phase goes. Mid-year, we'll be looking at possibly adding 3 more slots to the police department. That would be for the traffic unit. We've already approved the 3 SRO positions, and we still have 1 part-time position open. I talked about Operation Stop Arm, moving along, have written some citations, and it's an ongoing process, and will continue over the course of the school year as needed. Citizen Police Academy started 3 weeks ago. This is class number 26. 15 participants. This is a daytime class, 9 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. They're very, very hopeful that they can continue to have that class during the daytime. October the 14th, there will be a block party in conjunction with the National Crime Prevention Coalition's Night Out program, which is an annual community building program. This one will be, the police department will sponsor it at Ed Davis Park. Basketball, various other things for the kids to do. They'll have popsicles depending upon the weather. It's like this past weekend, we may be switching it to hot chocolate, but we'll also have the kid print there. The K9 unit, we have two canines on duty. We're having some issues with one on tracking. Talked with the Lexington Police Department, and they believe it's a dog issue, not a handler issue. So they're working to get with the trainer from High Drive to come up from South Carolina to the PD to work on that with with the handler, and if necessary, we potentially will be getting a replacement dog, but nothing is set yet. Still looking for retired school resource officers. May have a couple of retirees interested in the position, and Mayor Jenkins was talking about changing the rate of pay from $27 to $30 an hour to help with hiring, because our current part-time officers get $30 an hour, and the school resource officers were slated at 27. So we'll be looking at possibly changing that. The IT update, NetGain is on board, and they're starting to work on getting all the data switched over. It could be done by the end of October. We have 19 vehicles at L&W Outfitters. Captain Lodel is pushing to have the cars turned out with the graphics. We will have 5 specialty cars, K9, detective, and 3 SRO vehicles. All vehicles should be done by February or March of 2024. They're just so backed up, and they have a shop in Lawrenceburg as well as Northern Kentucky, and they are all both shops are backed up, so they're trying to get them as quick as possible. Harlan County Schools, if you remember, we did, when we surplus some vehicles, we donated, or we sold some cars to Harlan County Schools. They were tickled to death. They came and picked them up in a caravan style and picked them up and took them back, and they were really thrilled to get those. So, Chief, you want to come up and talk about the Cortico app? This is a mental health app for the officers, not only for the police, but it could be expanded out to fire and dispatch as well. So I'll let you expand on that.
Yes, we're in the early stages of this. And you remember, Assistant Chief Nash was at the FBI Academy last year. One of the things we was going to task him with was coming back to help us with the mental health of the officers. So he did some research. The Cortico, it says an app, it's $12 a month per officer. So it does have applications for fire, EMS, and dispatch. So the officer or firefighter or whatever can gain access, obviously, 24/7, 365 days a year. They can speak to a live person. Just some of the high notes that talked about it, cuts down obviously on the overtime costs, because the officer was able to, kind of like what we had after Deputy Connolly, we had a panel where officers could go and talk to other officers who have experienced what we experienced, and they can relate. It will be the same thing through this app. So the people that they would get in contact with could be a law enforcement officer, could be a firefighter or a dispatcher. They will work out these things, whatever is on their mind. And also, there's tons of things that it'll do for your fitness, financial, your mental well-being. The list goes on and on and on. But we feel like this app would help cut back on some of the workers' comp. If an officer has to come in and use a mental day, if you will, help cut down on healthcare costs. Everything provides a complete range of self-assessments, continuously update video and guides, the 60 health and lifestyle management topics. Everything is confidential, so that's usually a big thing for, I'll say, all of public service, law enforcement, fire, so we want everything to be like that. The annual subscription would cover the app, the building, the design, licensing, maintenance, any technical issues you may have for Android or iPhone. It's unlimited use to all personnel, and unlimited use to no cost to the spouse. We've talked about that. That could be just as big for the officer or the firefighter, because they go through the same emotional roller coaster as we would. Unlimited use of no cost for all the department retirees. So So we feel like that would be a good thing as well. Because I've mentioned before, we may send somebody that's never really talked about a lot of events that happen, and then they go retire. So they've got all these events that they kept bottled up, and then they're trying to deal with going through retirement and not carrying a badge or being a firefighter. So there's things that they may want to work through. That's basically it in a nutshell. We presented that to Mr. Stone and Ms. Hambrick to look at. We gave that to Alex, corticode.com, I believe. You can go and there's a bunch of videos and things on there. It gives you a lot more info.
Thank you, sir.
Real quick question, Chief, are there other communities using this app? And what have you seen from that? Okay.
So there's a big list on there.
And is that all? A couple other things. Third shift continues to work hard, fielding drug complaints. We did have an officer involved in a automobile collision. Officer was transported to UK, where he was treated and released. Is he back to work, Chief?
Yes.
Okay, already back to work. And then still recovering firearms from vehicle break-ins and burglaries. Firearms have been recovered from Bradford Place and other areas in Georgetown. So, great police department doing great work. So, Willow, you got anything?
That covers it, thank you.
All right.
Todd, could you tell us the time on the block party?
On the block party, yes, I
Please.
can.
4 to 6.
4 to 6, I believe it is.
Thank you.
Yep.
The question about, can we see a monthly breakdown of the call log, just so we can see what trends we're looking at? Chief, do you track that monthly? The
Call for service?
call log, yeah, the call for service.
Yeah, what would you like?
Just seeing if there's, what trends are you seeing? I don't expect you to report out tonight, but it may be a monthly call log trend, so we can see, we're seeing crimes going up over here, this area, or a particular crime or something like that. Just what would be interesting to see. As we grow, I'm just curious, is crime also growing with us? Thank you.
Is that it, Mr. Stone?
Mm-hmm. Yes,
Are there
sir.
any others? Again, I want to thank the Georgetown Police Department for allowing me to do the ride-along. It's an experience I'll never will forget. Like I said, my fingerprints are still embedded in the dashboard, and because we had a lot of things that happened, and again, they don't have an ordinary day. And I'm very proud of our first responders because, in fact, like I mentioned this morning in my address to the city, is that it's always good to know that you got these people who put their lives on the line each and every day, and that they don't run from danger, they run to it. And that's a good, confident thing that you all need to know, that I think you got the best of the best doing this each and every day. So I want to publicly get that out there for that. At this time, we're going to have a presentation done by the Georgetown Scott County Tourism. Lori Sanders is going to come in, and I'm sure it's going to talk a little bit about what I think a lot of people want to hear. Information as to about the restaurant tax information and discussion. Again, this is information that we want to make sure everybody hears and understand, hopefully. And going from there, we did this earlier in the year with our finance committee, seeing it, and also we thought it was very important to bring it out to the council as well as to the public as to what that would involve. Thank you, Lori, for coming.
Thank you, Mayor Jenkins, for having me tonight. I really do appreciate it. And my commission appreciates it too. We really appreciated the fact that you came to our office and wanted to do a fact-finding and discovery mission on the restaurant tax, that there were a lot of unknowns, and that you invited us here tonight to just share information about the restaurant tax and what that would potentially look like. So thank you to all of you for having me here. So let's get started. I decided that probably the first thing we needed to do was have a little chat about Georgetown Scott County tourism, because not everybody knows exactly what we do. So if you'll go on to the next slide, please. So we were established in 1974. Yes, next year we will be celebrating our 50th year anniversary. We always like a good party, so you can count on one next summer, I'm sure. We were done by a joint ordinance. We are both city and county, so we promote and market the city and the county all as one unit. We are managed by a 7-member volunteer board of commissioners who are jointly appointed by the mayor and the judge. So we have we have 3 hotel representatives. We have a chamber representative. We have a restaurateur on our board. And then of course we have a mayor and a judge's appointment to our commission. Next, please. I can see my paper, but I can't see that, so. You will actually have the PowerPoint also there. And you also have my notes in your packet also in case you need them. So we do have a mission statement. Our mission statement is that Georgetown Scott County Tourism promotes and supports local attractions, activities, and events that foster overnight visitors. Our vision statement is that we will be the leader in the industry and be seen as the primary organization promoting activities and attractions within the city and county, and we will ensure the best visitor experience, thereby maximizing the economic impact for Georgetown Scott County as a whole. We have one full-time director, that's me, Lori, and then we also have our marketing director, Bailey Gilkerson, who's right there. I'm sure you've seen her smiling face before. Dylan Marson, who is our communications manager. I have a part-time person, Linda Webster, who is there taking all the phone calls and all the visitors who come into our office. She is really a big force behind us. She doesn't get the recognition that she probably deserves. And then on occasion, we have an intern from Georgetown College. This year, we have Savannah Reeves, who's been helping us out. So excited to have her with us. Next slide, please. So our commission is funded by a 3% transient tax. Some of you all may know that more as a hotel tax. The tax also applies to our short-term rentals, which is an Airbnb, a VRBO, and in case you didn't know, there are over 150 short-term platforms. Unbelievable, but we're going after every one of them to make sure that they're paying their transient taxes just like our hotels do and just like our campgrounds also have to. This year, we expect to hit over $800,000 in transient tax. This past year, we actually got to $842,000, and that was because we were seeing the income come in from our short-term rentals that we hadn't seen before, and in addition to our campgrounds, because the state law changed in January 1, that campgrounds were required to pay, and that our short-term rentals were now responsible for paying on their own, or the Airbnb is supposed to be paying us, VRBO is supposed to be paying us, but many of them are doing it on their own because Airbnb has not been complying. But we expect that to happen soon. We're hoping, fingers crossed. So we have a total of a $1.3 million budget, but that also includes our ARPA funds that we received, our EDA money that we received. Festival of the Horse has money in its account, and of course Celebrate Georgetown, which you all help fund by giving us $40,000 every year, and the county gives us 10. Next slide. So what do we do? There's a big list behind me. So I'm going to kind of break it down into something a little bit smaller. So we do have our visitor center, and we provide local and regional information to the consumer. We have produced maps, brochures, dining opportunities, and itineraries, all either in person or by phone, email, website, and our social media. We have close to 10,000 people who come into our office every single year, every year. So we're always excited to see those visitors coming into our office because we know if they come to see us, they're probably going to go down to downtown and to all of our attractions too. We also advertise and market the whole community. We strategically promote Georgetown to new and repeat visitors, and that includes our print, digital ads, social media campaigns, media visits. Just this past Friday, we had a travel writer who was in town all weekend, so we expect to see some good press and coverage off of that. He actually attended the Seed to Feed dinner hosted by Justin Thompson. And then, of course, we also provide editorial content for magazines also. So currently, we are working on 5 multi-jurisdictional projects. Joyride, which I think if you saw the mayor's slide today, you saw Mike Wolf from American Pickers. So he was there working on film and footage for us for this new Joyride campaign. We've got a Kentucky After Dark, Horses and Horsepower, Just Add Water, Horses, Horsepower, and Haulers. All of these are multi-jurisdiction, so we're working with different communities and CVBs across the entire state. In addition to that, Georgetown is specifically working on a whole new initiative. We are concentrating on the outdoors, soft adventures, and the birthplace of bourbon. So everything will be new when we are ready to roll out this campaign. New website, new brochure, new ads, new social media, and most importantly, new messaging. And I would love to come back and talk to you all about that when we get that rolling, because I think it's going to be pretty exciting. So just so you know, according to the Kentucky Department of Tourism survey by Longwoods, which they say that every dollar spent in advertising and marketing is a return on investment of $66, in addition to $5 in taxes. That is pretty doggone good when you think about when we spend $1 in advertising, what we're getting in return for that. Other things that we do, we cultivate experiences for visitors and locals through planned events and partnerships that you may have heard of: G-Town Eats Week, the Elkhorn Creek Float Festival, Horsey 100, Festival of the Horse, which we just got done doing, the Bourbon Burn, and all of that, all of those events take support from the community. We could not do those events if we did not have Chief Thompson, Chief Allgood, and Chief Bruin helping us out, and the many other community partners we have. So we so appreciate you all and all you do, because we couldn't do it without you. Other things that we do, we are the spokespersons for our local government, attractions, and hoteliers. We work with tour operators, that's large groups. You see the motor coaches in town. We're out there working every day to get more and more of those into our community. So we attend motor coach shows, about 6-7 a year. We also attend consumer shows in addition to PR shows that we go to, trying to get some good press for us in Georgetown. We also cultivate itineraries, so anybody who calls in, not just motor coaches, who wants help in deciding what their day is going to look like while they're in Georgetown or around the region, we provide those services at no charge to them. In addition, we prepare materials for visiting groups and locals who are planning to move to the area. You'd be surprised how many times we have people who are moving to Georgetown and just want some additional information. So we're happy to provide that. I also find it amazing as how many came back into our office, who came here for a visit and decided we want to live here. So kudos to our town, because that's why. It's because they see and recognize how wonderful our community is. And we also provide a lot of in-kind services to local events that are not specifically ours, but we are always there willing to lend a helping hand. Next slide, please. So Celebrate Georgetown. You heard me say that we appreciate the funding that you all provide to us for downtown Georgetown. We do our best to use that money to increase the investment of downtown, create a positive image of our downtown, develop retail promotions, and maintain a positive relationship with our downtown members, and create authentic and experiential events for the people who are coming to Georgetown. Next slide, please. So that's just a slide kind of showing just some of the different events we do. We put on the Georgetown After Hours, the sidewalk sale, the Christmas parade. And I think people are surprised to find out that it's tourism who does that, because across the state, that is not heard of. We are one of the few tourism offices that delves into events in any way, shape, or form. They may give a sponsorship dollar, but they're not doing any of the heavy lifting. They're not putting them on, directly involved with them. So we're pretty proud of that fact because we feel like we're heavily invested in our community. And you'll also see that one blue rack card. You've also got a copy of that in your all's folder. And it just shows what we do for historic downtown Georgetown. It tells about our ads, our promotions, our things like that. So you all can take a look at that later. Next slide, please. Fun facts. The top states that visit Kentucky is a lot of people from Kentucky come all the way, come from around the state and travel to Georgetown. Ohio is a big one, Indiana, Michigan, Tennessee, Georgia, Florida, Illinois, and North Carolina. And we're seeing some other states pop up recently that we hadn't seen before, and that is Iowa, California, and New York. This number is a big number. The total visitor days to Georgetown, Scott County is 9.5 million days of people coming into our town. For downtown alone, it's 2.1 million. And just so you know, that does not count people within a 30-mile radius of Georgetown. That is outside 30 miles of Georgetown. 5-day trippers, this is the number that just blew me away, is that people are 5+ days in Georgetown. The number is 2.3 million days. That's pretty big. The Festival of the Horse this year had over 33,000 people in attendance, starting on Thursday night with the Fireman's Chili Cookout, which is always awesome, and then leaning into the rest of the festival days. So why does all of this matter? Next slide, please. So tourism supports over 1,200 jobs with a labor income of over $36 million, 13.5 million actually, in state and local taxes. And the big number is $1.7 million, I'm gonna make this number bigger than what I'm saying. $171 million is spent by visitors in our community. That is a portion of the $13 billion industry that tourism has in Kentucky. So I think 171 million is pretty doggone amazing for our community. So we see ourselves as an economic development. Next slide, please. So in a nutshell, as a destination organization, we are responsible for promoting a community as an attractive travel destination and enhancing its public image as a dynamic place to live and work. And we think of that always, to live and to work and to play here. Through the impact of travel, we strengthen the economic position and provide opportunities for people in our community. One of our favorite things that we like to say is, if you build a place where people want to visit, you have built a place where people want to live. If you have built a place where people want to live, then you have built a place where people want to work. If you build a place where people want to work, then you have built a place where employers want to locate. And it all starts with that very first visit. So, I'm going to move into the next phase of it, and that's the restaurant tax. But I did want to give you a little brief overview of what we do at our office. What y'all been waiting for is the restaurant tax, so let's move along. Next slide, please. Next slide. Next slide. You stop. So I will let you read the Kentucky Revised Statute. It's long, so you all can read it yourself, but I will give you the highlights, the elements of the restaurant tax, KRS 91A 400. The restaurant tax can be no more than 3%. Only 4th and 5th class cities are eligible, and we were a 4th class city at one time. They have gone ahead and allowed those who were once designated as 4th and 5th to continue on to have the restaurant tax. I will tell you from a personal standpoint, I have fought tirelessly for every community to be able to enact it if they want to. I'm not saying you have to, but I think it should be available to those to any community who wants that. Because I recognize there are a lot of communities that do not have the economic development that we have in our community, and this could be a bounce for them. So the funds has to be enacted by the legislative body, in that case, you all, the city council. We can't do it as a tourism commission. It must come from you all. And all funds have to go to the designated CVB, which would be Georgetown, Scott County Tourism. Next, please. So what was the intent? The restaurant tax was meant to help small communities that did not have hotels or limited transient taxes. That was the whole purpose of it to begin with. If you think about it, years ago, before Georgetown was here, before Toyota was here in Georgetown, the Winter Circle and restaurants, that kind of funding would have significantly helped back when this was first available to communities to enact. KRS 91A 400 doesn't specifically specify allowable uses for the restaurant tax monies, but the generally accepted interpretation is that the uses are the same as those as the transient tax monies. I think I've got the Attorney General's opinion up there. Yes, I do. Back a while ago, in 2012, actually, there was some ideas about what it could and what it couldn't do. And if any of you all were at the KLC meeting this past week, 2 weeks ago, they did a Tourism 101, and their KLC's attorney, Megan, was up there talking about the restaurant tax and the transient tax. And she was talking about the opinion. Where it came from was there were communities who said, we have visitors who walk on our sidewalks. We have visitors who drive on our roads, creating potholes. Those are not acceptable uses. That's what she was trying to explain to people, is those are not the uses of the funds. The purpose, and the Attorney General agrees, that the money must go to the Tourist Commission, and allowable uses are determined by the Commission within the purpose of promoting and developing convention, tourist activities, and facilities. Next, please. So just relying on that interpretation, the uses of the taxes are operation of the commission, promoting and developing convention and tourist activities and facilities, and a portion, as determined by the tax levying body, you all, upon the advice and the consent of the commission, may be used to finance the cost of acquisition, construction, operation, and maintenance of facilities useful in the attraction and promotion of tourist and convention businesses. So that is the topic, that is one of the things that, if you all decide to move forward, council and the commission should have a discussion about the uses of the funds. One of the things I will say about this, because Megan always says it when she does her presentations for KLC, that cannot be done under duress or stress. It has to truly be a mutual understanding as to what the funds are going to be used for. So, the next slide, I believe, is a list of cities that have the restaurant tax. You can see there's about, I think there's like 49, 50 of them. And they vary between 1% and 3%. You'll see communities that are about our size that have it, and then you'll see much smaller communities also. Next slide, please. So to understand the economic impact a restaurant tax would generate in Georgetown, we asked Paul Comer to conduct a survey. We did this back in 2017-18 because we were getting questions about it, and to be honest, we really, as a tourism commission, really didn't know how much money it would generate, how much was it with visitor spending versus local spending. So we did the study just for informational purposes on our side. If you recall, we never brought this, we never brought it to council as a discussion. So the whole study is in your all's packet to review. I'm just going to hit a couple of the highlighted points in there. Based on Paul's study, a 1% tax levied in 2018, remember 2018, would bring in between $500,000 and $800,000. 3% would be between 1.5 million and 2.4 million. And this is based on 2018 numbers. Of course, the actual number would depend on, unknown restaurant sales growth and the details of the tax ordinance. There may be some exclusions that, if you all decided to enact, that you would want to do. You may not want to include the college or the schools or the manufacturers who have a cafeteria and they only have so many minutes to go and eat. So those are things that have been excluded before in other communities. So a lot of the actual number is unknown. So what does that actually mean? A 3% tax would add 30 cents to a $10 meal, a 60 cents to a $20 meal, $1.50 to a $50 meal, and $3 to a $100 meal. The restaurant tax is voluntary in the sense that it's only assessed when someone chooses to dine out. A lot of it will be paid by out-of-town visitors and county residents and city residents too. But it is estimated that many of our local restaurants generate their business from out-of-town visitors, especially if you think about the ones that are on I-75. A lot of transient people roll through the interstate, and they're constantly jumping off and on to get to some of the restaurants that are right on the interstate. So clearly, eating places in Georgetown is going to be patronized by locals and visitors alike. But we did ask Paul to kind of give us an idea of what he felt the local sales would be. So he went out and did a study based on license plates for dinner and for lunch. And both of those supported his conclusion that around 36% of restaurant sales are from city-county residents. But a side note to that is that in most cities, the restaurant tax is collected by the Tourism Commission, but it doesn't have to be. It can be the Revenue Commission, it can be the Finance Director, and of course there is a small fee that goes to that. So Paul, next slide please, sorry. Paul used the in-plan modeling system to kind of estimate how much the restaurant taxes expenditures would be by residents in Scott County. I don't know a lot about statistics or the in-plan model. So let's just move to the graph that he showed because I do understand it. But you can read about the in-plan model in your packet. So the next slide. So this is based on gross income, starting at a gross income of less than $15,000 to greater than $200,000. According to the chart, a family making less than $15,000 will spend approximately $1,700 a year at a restaurant. So their yearly total restaurant tax spend would be about $52 annually. A family income of $50,000 to $70,000 would spend approximately $3,900, with a $117 total restaurant tax spend a year. $100,000 to $150,000 family income would be around $290 in restaurant tax annually. Now these estimates are for expenditures anywhere, not just in Scott County. Clearly, we all eat at other places besides Georgetown, so this includes families here in Scott County who eat in Georgetown, but also go to Lexington or Midway or Berea, as well as their chosen vacation spots too. They eat there. So those numbers are based on all restaurants everywhere that they eat, not just here in our community. Next slide, please. Thank you. So I know the Tourism Commission has not had a chance to meet with you all, the council, but they did kind of want to get some ideas out there and suggest that there is some type of planned use for the funds. This is not set in stone. This is just an example should you all decide to continue your discovery on whether or not you want to implement the restaurant tax. But they suggest that there be a signature project that maximizes the economic impact for Georgetown and Scott County. The commission wants to see a project that would mutually benefit the visitors and the locals alike, that would be their recommendation. But to be clear, because there's been a lot of rumors out there are no projects. There's none in our mind. I don't think there's really any in anybody's minds. I think this is all truly a fact-finding mission, because they would want to speak to you about what those projects could potentially be. The funds, they would like to see a portion of the funds be appropriated for quality of life initiatives, with a quality of life grant committee established. The grant committee could comprise of community members that would be established by you all and the Tourism Commission. They would review all the applications and make recommendations to the commission. And then the funding request would go to the commission, would go to you, to the grant committee first. They would review them, and then the committee would recommend the projects for tourism. And then if that's, then after that, tourism would approve and fund the projects. One of the things that the commission was adamant about was transparency, that if this was enacted, that everybody needed to be aware of how the money was being spent. And they would be prepared to establish a clear reporting schedule, and to provide an annual report outlining the total revenue collected, a breakdown of the funds and how they were allocated, and the outcomes achieved. Next slide, please. So I think a lot of people are not aware that Georgetown, Scott County Tourism already invest very heavily in quality of life projects. I think some of people may be very surprised to find out that, and I stopped at 2016. Since 2016, the commission has actually supported over $260,000 in community projects. And here's just a few examples over the years. It's much more if I went on back from the very beginning. But Ward Hall, restoration and restrooms, Georgetown Gentlemen, vintage baseball team, the Georgetown Police Mounted Patrol, the Georgetown Police Department's effort to attend the memorial in Washington. Also support their outreach initiatives. The Kentucky Horse Park, the Kentucky 3-day event, various events that they host out there that we know bring people into our community. The pavilion at Royal Spring Park was actually paid for in full by the Georgetown Scott County Tourism Commission. Recently, we had a conversation with Candace Whitehouse about affordable housing and her homeless initiative, and she was talking about branding and messaging, and we suggested that she apply for one of our grants. So she was fully funded in the amount that she requested so that we could give her some assistance too. Of course, Old Friends Thoroughbred Retirement Farm. All the flowers and benches in downtown Georgetown are paid for by Georgetown Scott County Tourism. We have, for Scott County softball, baseball fields, we have had tournament sponsorships, and we also helped get them permanent restrooms on the softball and baseball fields. The Georgetown Women's Club, the Roadside Beautification Program, we've assisted with that. Ag Land at the Kentucky State Fair, we are a huge sponsor of that. We are talking about our fall festivals and reasons to come to Georgetown in the fall and enjoy all of our agritourism. But did you know that all the canned food that is used there at Ag Land, I bring back to the Amen House for them to distribute to our community. Event examples, we have helped with the Kiwanis Club fireworks, Echoes of Our Ancestors, we just gave them seed money to get started. Juneteenth, we've given them seed money. Airfest, the Rotary Club Kite Festival, Horsey 100, Bourbon Burn, and Spirit of the Bluegrass. And those are just a few of the things that we have assisted with that are quality of life. But we really feel like that is important to everyone, for our visitors and locals alike. So next slide, please. So next is a big list of quality of life ideas that we've identified. And basically we have identified them just by listening to the community. Whenever I'm speaking, I should say, and somebody says, why don't we have this? Or why can't we have this? Or when are we going to get this? I go back and put it on my list. as something that I'm always thinking about. I want to keep it in my mind. Or if I'm out in public and I hear somebody talking about something that is needed, I go back and I put it on the list. So this list that I'm getting ready to show you is from the community. Things that I have heard people say that they would like to see. So arts and cultural activities, I don't know if you all know this, but at one time, we were named one of the best small town arts and cultural communities in the South. We could not say that today, but I would certainly love to see us get back to that. Beautification, the city entryways, the interstate exits, develop tourist signage program from the interstate exits to our attractions, to our downtown. Bourbon, we want to tout, we are the birthplace of bourbon. But we've got some things to do before we can really do that. We need to educate our locals and visitors about the history of bourbon and how much Elijah Craig actually meant to our community and what he did for us. He wasn't just a pastor. He did dip that first water for his bourbon right down there at Royal Spring Park. His baptismal steps are still there. He founded Georgetown College. He was the first paper mill west of the Allegheny Mountains, and on top of that, he named us Georgetown because we used to be Lebanon. So he has had a major impact on our community and what it is today. So with that said, I would love to see some major cleanup on Royal Spring Park with some cabin repairs and an Elijah Craig bronze statue up there standing right beside the sign that says Birthplace of Bourbon. Next slide, please. And then, of course, to help historic downtown Georgetown, improve the streetscape. There's a lot of things that we can do to enhance downtown. Install seasonal and holiday decorations. So, the hardest time to get people into your community is generally December, January, and February. So if we can give them a reason to come here during the holiday season with amazing decorations and holiday activities, it would greatly help all of us, I think. Develop a tourist signage program in downtown Georgetown, helping people be able to move down in our downtown a whole lot easier. Maybe even public restrooms in our downtown. That would be something that would be a possibility too. And of course, provide matching funds for building improvements to the facades. Used to be that was available, that's gone away, but it would be nice to bring that back. Share the craft brew story. That's a big deal here in Georgetown with Country Boy. This is another one that I hear quite often, and it is about space, that there isn't space in Georgetown to do a lot of things, that we don't have a place to have, say, a performing arts type of thing. We don't have a place where we can go and do ballet. We don't have a place where we can have concerts inside. We don't have a place where we have an auditorium. We don't have meeting space. We don't have a space to do big banquets. We don't even have a space to do small banquets. So I hear that a lot about / convention, conference, performing arts center / community center, because it could be used for many things, but we hear that quite often. The Elkhorn Creek Trail development, I haven't heard so much about that now as I used to hear about it. Because I think years ago they started the trail development on Elkhorn Creek, and it's nice, but it could be greatly improved. Next slide. Festivals and events, we can always increase funding for popular events, like the ones that we currently have, plus develop new events and festivals. And develop pop-up events in recreational areas. For example, our parks and by our creeks, farm-to-table dinners out in one of our Georgetown parks, one of our beautiful parks. Concerts on the creek at the Elkhorn, picnic with the Pops, ballet under the stars. We're still working and looking for that mobile stage. I know you all remember you all gave us some money through the ARPA funds for the mobile stage. We found one that we really wanted. I was ready to grab Rob and drive to Florida and bring it back. And it's sold. So we're still on the look. I'm not giving up because I want the one that I want. The old jail project, before, that was a hot topic, you know, repurposing it and renovating it. That may not be on the top priority list now for the community, but at one time it was. Parks and Recreation, we can help fund capital projects and improvements to facilities at Parks and Rec. The Legacy Trail extension, instead of just going to Lyle Road and stopping, this money could potentially help bring it into town and further. And it could also provide restrooms, water fountains, and bike repair stations for the Legacy Trail. And fund an outdoor amphitheater. I'm hearing more and more about an outdoor amphitheater that people are asking us about. And then, of course, the Rural Spring Parks improvements. Next phase. Skullbuster mountain bike and horseback riding facility. We could help with this money could help with capital improvements by adding signage, parking, and safety standards that need to be done out there. Ward Hall, helping with their structure, interior and exterior, modernizing it somewhat with electric, HVAC, and plumbing. You go in on the garden, complete the proposed gardens to the existing foundation that they had. I don't know if you all are familiar with, but when it originally, the UCO-N was done, the Georgetown Scott County Tourism Commission gave $30,000 to go towards that. And then, of course, the Georgetown Scott County Museum helped to fund capital improvements to their facilities and fund new permanent and temporary exhibits that draw people into downtown. And of course, all of your all suggestions too, because I'm sure you've got many more that are not on that list that could potentially qualify as quality of life projects that could go be funded via the restaurant tax. Next slide, please. So I was having a conversation not too long ago with one of our hoteliers, and we were talking about the restaurant tax. And I made the comment, I said, you know, I know, you know, this could be a hot topic. And he said, well, Lori, back in 1974, when the council and the magistrates decided to implement the 3% transient tax, it was hard for the hotels too. But he said, we finally understood, after looking at what you could do with the transient tax, how it could potentially benefit the community, that they agreed in the end that it was important to market and advertise as one unit to benefit everyone collectively. So because of their forward thinking, they have been able to help every business in this town by funding Georgetown Scott County Tourism through a 3% transient tax. So that's all I've got. If you all have got any questions, I'll be happy to try and answer them. If I don't know the answers, I will certainly go out and get you the answer for them.
All right, thank you, Lori. Any questions thus far? I do know in talking with her that the one thing about this is that, you know, if for some reason we do move forward with this, you know, if it doesn't work the way we want it to work and it's going to benefit the citizens and businesses as it should, it can be rescinded. That's the thing that people need to understand. This is not set in stone. It's not set in stone that you have to have a 3%. I mean, you could go lower if it's at that. You may want to do that too. But again, we're just trying to make sure that everybody understands and sees and be educated as to what all is possible before making the decision and bringing it back to council. We have not done anything with this. This is just all informational, and we're going to do our due diligence to make sure that we look at all possibilities. And we're not just looking at the restaurant tax. There are other things we're looking at too. So we have to, as I talked about this morning, you know, because of our tax structure, where we are, and there's something there's something we cannot do about, is that we have a gap that we got to close. And again, we understand this is not going to be used to put in our fund balance. This is going to be used directly to go back for the citizens of this community. That's where it's going. And a lot of people, and of course I did not know that until actually hearing this and so on, but I also want you to hear it and understand, so, you know, everybody's on the same page with that. So.
I have a question, Mayor. Lord, for communities that have implemented this, Can you talk about what they have done that's worked and what they have done that has not worked? And what have you learned from that?
So the biggest takeaway from the communities that I've talked to who have implemented the restaurant tax is having a foundation with a plan, with consistent messaging through everyone has made the restaurant tax work. People have felt more comfortable knowing exactly what it's going for and what the uses are for. The communities that just up and willy-nilly did it really had a hard time with it. But once they saw the ones that were doing it right, the CVBs and the cities that were doing it right, by using the money the correct way, and the community could see the benefits that it was bringing to their town, whether it was through the marketing and advertising side and getting more visitors into our hotels, into our restaurants, into our shops, or our locals who were enjoying those very same things that our visitors do. That it has always gone over much better when there has been a very clear and consistent plan and messaging. And that's why I would invite you all to come and talk to the Tourism Commission, so that you all have a greater understanding of what you're looking for and what they're thinking too.
Lori, I have a couple of questions. I appreciate you coming and bringing all this good information. I appreciate a lot of people who represent the restaurant industry and other places who've come to listen. Dialogue is the best way to gain understanding and to make decisions. But a few people that have contacted me said, why don't we just raise the hotel transient fee? By law, that cannot be done. It's capped. So that would be great because it would just be out-of-town visitors that would be impacted, and this would significantly impact people who eat in Georgetown, and people eat out more often now, I think, than ever, including my own family. So we need to be very careful about any of these kinds of decisions. And the needs that have been expressed to me are things like a lap pool and things like pickleball courts. And it's my understanding in talking with people about this is that those would not be ways that this money could be spent. Is that a correct implication or not?
Correct and incorrect.
Okay.
So, to start out with, for the pickleball, there have been communities that have implemented pickleball courts, and they bring in a lot of tournaments from people all across the United States and Kentucky too. So that puts people in the hotels, it puts people in the restaurants, it puts people in our shops. So it kind of depends. Is it going to be completely local, or is it going to add value to tourism and have an economic impact in the community?
So there would have to be a built-in structure when the proposal's made to the Tourism Commission to use the money that way, that there would be tournaments that would bring in outside people to our community, or it would not be.
It's important for it to have an economic impact to the community through the visitor. But they do want things to be for locals and visitors alike.
Right.
The best thing to say is, I think, having a conversation with the commission, because I don't make the decisions, they will make those.
Right.
And each project is probably a little bit different and could or could not fall under the guidelines of what we've been tasked with the restaurant tax.
Yeah. I'm also interested in knowing whether or not you have any data collected. A lot of the people who are in the restaurant industry that have spoken to me and written me this week are concerned that their bottom line would be going down and people would go to places where they wouldn't be paying a 2 or 3%. Is that data that we know that places that have implemented this have seen, or is that just data that's too hard to?
I have not heard from any community to say that that has impacted their restaurants. What I have heard is that taking the restaurant tax money that they have and using it to bring more visitors into their town has actually increased their revenue, because more people are coming into the town because of the assets and marketing that they have developed with this funding.
Yeah, it would be interesting
which
to
is
see that.
which is the purpose of
Yeah, it'd
it.
be interesting to see that data.
But
Um,
I have never seen a study on that.
Okay.
But I will check around. I will dig a little deeper on
Yeah,
that
I'd like to
for
see
you.
that if you can find it. And also, it's probably illegal. Everything it seems like I would like to do is illegal. Don't quote me on that. But would it be legal to only have it impact visitors from out of town and people who could show their license plate for in-town dining if there are Scott County, Georgetown citizens? Is that legal? Because that would be great, just like the hotel tax, right?
I don't know the
That's
answer
not
to
something
that.
I
Oh,
can
she doesn't
answer.
know the answer.
That's gonna be a
great.
different
There's a
question.
possibility.
Yeah, I don't know that answer. In terms of ease of administration for restaurant owners, I think that could be concerning, but I do understand that inclination. I mean, I'm inclined to say you could do it, just based on, I don't think where you live is a protected class. I don't think it would be discriminatory in any way, but I think in terms of administration, it might be tough.
Well, if we
But-
could look into that, that would be an interesting
Yeah,
tangent to
I think
this
there's also a
whole-
question about the policy message there in term, if I'm a Lexington or a
Yeah,
Midway resident,
that's
and I
not
know
real
that,
friendly.
are we friendly too? So I think
Yeah.
that uniformity does matter, but I'd be glad to look into
And we
whether
do have
it's-
a lot of people who come to Georgetown from, it might not be the best.
And one of the things that we did take into account and asked Paul to do
Mm-hmm.
is when you go and look at the license plates, there are a lot of people like me. I didn't buy my car in Scott County. So my license plate has a Jefferson
Yeah.
County tag on it.
That's what I was gonna ask you.
So
but
we did-
36% seems awfully low.
So
Yeah,
what
it
we
does seem low.
did is we asked him to reach out to the Scott County Clerk's office. And we don't know who they are, so I don't know where you bought your car or what your tag says. But she did give information so that we would have a percentage rate of how many people in Scott County pay their licensing tags and registration here, but have another county on their license plate. And by the way, just a plug for Scott County, you can go in there and ask for a Scott County tag for free, and you can put it on the back of your license plate. I did that because I was proud to be from here, so that is at no charge, and you can do it too if your tag's from someplace else.
Lori, I
I
got
I think it would be really hard to base any decisions or anything on the assumption that 36%.
Yeah.
I think that's,
Extremely low.
extremely low.
Yeah, and then to ask the restaurants to check everybody's ID, oh, wait a minute,
No.
I can't charge you for this.
Yeah, it could
Wait
get a
minute,
little
I'm gonna check,"
confrontational.
Yeah.
That would be just unnecessary added work for them, for us.
Right.
So,
Lori, do you have any, of the cities that have implemented this, did they go right into the 3% or did they do it incrementally? Do you have any data on that?
The majority went on and went straight to the 3. I can tell you the ones that did the 1 and the 2% regret it. They say if you're going in, go all in, because you will look back and wish you had done it, because there's so many projects it could fund, and you are limiting yourself. Now, that's not to say that that's what's right for this community. That's just to say that that's what the communities have said who have done the 1 and 2.
Hey, Lori,
Thank you.
I know a lot of servers and waiters depend on tips. Where the restaurant tax has been implemented, is there any way to look at tipping patterns? Has that changed any?
I asked the communities that have the restaurant tax if they had had any feedback or blowback. All of them said no, that they had not heard of any reduced tipping because of that. In their words, if you're a good server, you're going to be tipped well. In addition, they said when they implemented the restaurant tax, that was to bring more people into the town. So when it brings more people into your hotel, it brings more people into your restaurants. So the quantity of people who are coming to your restaurant will grow. But I have never heard that there was an issue with the tipping from any of the communities. And I did reach out to a few and ask, because I was specifically concerned about that also.
Thank you.
Lori,
Have you talked to any of our local people, restaurant owners, about the tipping and all that?
Not yet.
I mean, I think that's where we need to start with them. And that's just me personally, that's my personal opinion, okay? You know, the people, but I think we need to start with them and
Gloria, of
ask
the,
them
And I have
questions.
mentioned that we probably should have a
We-
listening
we
session.
have to.
But I just want to be clear, our commission is not the one leading the
Right,
charge on this.
right.
So we're just trying to provide what you're all asking for us to
I
provide.
understand.
If you would like for us to have a listening session, we would be more than happy to do so.
I
But
think
I
we-
would
I really
greatly
think we need to.
appreciate if we had council members present there too, because they're going to have more answers than we have.
I would
All I've
definitely like
got
to do
is
that.
this presentation to share.
No, I understand,
Yeah.
and I appreciate that, but, you know, this is our community, and I understand what you're saying with the, you know, out on the interstate and everything, but here, Galvin's, Salante, all the different ones here in town, I think it is a lot of locals. I don't cook, I mean, and I call for, you know, carry out all the time, so, yeah, this is affecting a lot of us, and I think it's more locals than it is, you know, visitors, whatever, but I think we've gotta get with our local owners and stuff too. I'm not comfortable with it right now. And I know we gotta look for money. I understand that. We're trying to find finances, and I do wanna understand more what the money can be used for. And if it's for, like, the Parks and Recreation Department, not just Legacy or this, I mean, all the parks, we gotta, you know, not just this park or that park, we need to be able to take care of all of the parks. But right now, I know this is an open session, but we still need to get with our local restaurant owners and the community, and I'll be glad, and I definitely will be there. You can I'll put myself out there. I will be there when you have that session, if we can get that together.
Whenever you all decide you want to do it, we will be happy to be there and present the same information that we have. Any of the restaurants that are here today, I would welcome a phone call about the restaurant tax and for them to share any information that they have. And I am more than happy to share what I've got with them too, yeah.
or one last question from me. On the check, when you say tax on the check itself, is that the total amount, or is that just the food? Or does it include alcohol, or what's it include in other cities? Do you know?
It is not, so you do not count the alcohol tax, you don't count any of the additional taxes. It is for the actual expense on the things that you purchase there. So your food and your drink, but not the additional taxes that are added on to the check. So
But
you don't
if
multiply it
if they
times
have a
your,
couple of beers with their dinner, then it's gonna be taxed on that, right?
it's the total,
Okay,
it's
see,
the
the
total
the
bill.
problem we get into here is we already have an
Have
alcohol
alcohol
tax,
tax.
and we're double taxing alcohol.
So that
if we
could
do
be, when we talked about the unknowns and how
Yeah.
the ordinance would be written.
That's just, I'm just bringing that up for
True,
point to
yes,
point.
that would
So,
be something
yeah.
that you all could decide, that it is not taxed on the alcohol because they're already getting the alcohol
Right.
tax. And it would only be on the food side. The only thing I would say, I don't know how the registers work, so I
Yeah.
don't know how easy or
Okay.
hard that would be. But like I said, it really depends on how you all write
The ordinance.
the ordinance, yeah,
Okay, thank you.
yeah.
Let me ask a follow-up question to Greg's question. You know, it just seems like a few years ago, we implemented that alcohol tax. So, I mean, there's plenty of restaurant owners here in the audience. You know, I'm assuming, again, I don't know this for a fact, but when that restaurant tax, or I'm sorry, the alcohol tax was implemented, the restaurant owners had to probably purchase a new software program to be able to, is that not correct?
I don't know the answer to
Well,
that. I didn't have anything to do with the
okay, well-
alcohol tax, so I don't know whether they had to have new software or not for that.
And the reason I ask that is if we ultimately decide that we're going to implement a restaurant tax, would I be wrong in assuming that restaurant owners would have to purchase either a new software package or additional software to be able to implement that tax? And if so, what is the cost? I mean, that's something I think we need to think about is, is it going to add an additional cost to the restaurant owners?
I can answer for Alphonse if you want. I mean, most modern, unfortunately, I'd like to give you a different answer. Most modern POS point-of-sale systems allow you to add as many taxes as you want in the current software. So I don't think that would be an issue for modern point-of-sale systems. Now, that's just, and we have one, so but I don't know about the rest of the restaurants. And, you know, if there's still people, you know, doing manual tickets or things like that.
Well, we're a ways away from, like, this is just gathering information for all of us because we have new council members and they're not aware of it. But I do want to point out that years ago when we did bring alcohol into our community, I've lived here all my life, it was very controversial, but it has benefited our restaurants in downtown a lot. I mean, I can't imagine Salante Pub without alcohol, and I can't imagine Gavin Sports Bar without alcohol. And in saying that, I'm just trying to gather what Lori's saying is bringing more people into our community by being able to enhance the things that we have that the money's not there to do, that it's geared toward that, and just want to be open-minded, but still have conversations with our restaurant owners, and I'll be glad to have those conversations too, for sure. But I just wanted to point out that that was a very difficult time to get alcohol in Georgetown. Just want to say that. I remember that.
For council members who aren't familiar with, so everyone that's referring to the alcohol tax, it's actually called the alcohol regulatory fee, and I think all the bar owners and restaurant owners in here are heavily familiar with it. But the statute is really clear that you have to use that funding for the policing, regulation, administration as a result of the sale of alcohol in your community. So unlike the restaurant tax statute, that statute is really, really clear. Which obviously there's a lot of conversation about what the restaurant tax can and cannot do, but that regulatory fee is for the purpose of mitigating any kind of issues in the community or administration caused by the sale of alcohol. So that's just a little context for some of the new council members.
Lori, I have one more thing. A lot of things have a best time, and this is a tough time. We have increasing inflation, gas prices were going to go down, but now that we're on the brink of a lot of war in the Middle East, they might shoot back up. We've had an increase in water. That doesn't mean that we can't have vision, but we also have to have timing. And the timing right now is tough.
Yes.
And that's why I think, we need to, it's just my opinion, look at the things that will not directly impact consumers as much as some of the other things that we might be able to do to get some revenue streams. But that doesn't mean that this isn't important information for me.
Right.
It's very valuable what you've done, and it's very valuable what you have been doing in Georgetown and Scott County. We are a gem in many ways that attracts tourists and tourism dollars. The timing for this right now might not be right now, in my own humble opinion, but it doesn't mean that 5 years from now, 3 years from now, it may be a different environment. So, thank you for bringing this.
I don't disagree with you, Ms. Hambrick, at all, because right now, everything is really uncertain. Interest rates are over 7%, almost 7.5%. The economy, groceries.
Yep.
I mean, you're not even buying snack. I can't imagine what your all's food costs would be.
Yep.
Or any of that. I can only tell you what mine is, and it's for, it's a lot, and not anything else. Salaries. That's
All
your
going
probably
up,
your biggest.
just to get workers.
No.
Just if you can get it.
Yep.
Right.
I do think it is a good opportunity. I do think it's a good opportunity for us to come together collectively and talk it through.
Yep.
Yes.
Nobody here tonight is saying we're gonna do this and we're
No.
not gonna do it. It's just information gathering. So going forward, I would see that we would collectively all sit down, kind of work it out. There are some pluses and minuses here. The thing of it is our quality of life is really, really poor in Georgetown. I raised 3 sons here, and a lot of times they would go to Lexington to do things. So if this helps us get things here from a quality of life perspective, I just think we need to talk it through. What is the possibilities here?
And kind of comment on Ms. Hambrick's comments. I don't think that there has been any kind of timeline set to my
No,
knowledge.
no, absolutely
I mean, as
not.
far as we know at the tourism side, it's really just to gather up information, maybe not for today,
Yeah.
maybe not for tomorrow, but in the future, if we want to circle back around to it, at least we've got a little bit of a foundation to go ahead and start on. So we agree that, you know, timing is very important when you go to implement any new fees, so this one included. But yes.
Yeah, and the other thing that everybody needs to understand is when we had our special call meeting for revenue forecasting on different areas, we had the Revenue Commission come and talk to us about people that aren't paying their taxes. And our ordinance isn't strong enough and have enough teeth for them to be able to enforce that. So by going through and finding these facts, we were able to write a new ordinance, which Devin's working on, to be able to help that bring in that revenue. So that's what we're doing. We're just following up on what we've talked about to find out more information. I think developer impact fees might be the next thing that we're gonna
Bring people in.
bring and talk about and just gather that information as well, so.
Which is a whole nother
Whole nother
group
animal.
with another
Yeah,
group of
so-
people. But that's fine.
Yeah, it's very informative.
Well, thank you for inviting us, and my commission really appreciates that you have allowed us to be part of the conversation and to bring good information to you. And like I said, anybody has any questions, feel free to email me or call me. If I don't know the answer, I will dig around until I find it. So thank you again for allowing me to come.
Well,
Thank
Lori,
you.
I really appreciate
Thank
what you
you.
do, and you do a really, really good
Thank you.
job.
Thank you.
I've got a really good team,
Yeah,
but you know,
you do.
most of all, I have a great community.
Yes.
And it is very easy to go about and talk and promote the place we all love the most.
Exactly.
Right here, Georgetown, so.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lori.
And again, just to reiterate, you know, again, this is the good thing about bringing people in and talking about it, because I think the lack of knowledge is the thing that people don't understand. If you're able to figure out what everybody needs to know, the information, then you can think about, well, like you said, timing. This may not be the right time. It may have something we have to look at down the road. But at least we got it out in front of us so everybody knows that this is a possibility, and when we can implement all this, or when we can do a lot of things down the road, how can we do it? It's like many of the other things that Connie talked about, and these are all suggestions, and these are all things that are bring to us. Like I said, we got to find ways to manage good services for people, and we need to be competitive to try to get the best for our citizens here every day, and that's what we're going to strive to do. Again, thank you, Lori, for bringing that to us. Next, we have Georgetown Municipal Water and Sewer Service. They want a bill, they want somebody to pay?
We'd like to pay, yes, sir.
Okay, I guess you go ahead then. Bring it on, we'll just see what we do with it.
One purchase order tonight for your consideration, and this is one, it is to Desotech, which is a new name. It's the same company with a new name that you've heard many times previously, Evoqua. This is a semi-annual budgeted purchase for carbon at our wastewater plant 2, and this is for part of our treatment process. The amount of the purchase order is $54,116. Again, budgeted purchase. This is a sole source purchase that we're making, and it is for 4,000 pounds of carbon for changeout.
Second.
Okay. Motion made by Mr. Hampton, second made by Ms. Tackett. Are there questions and/or discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say likewise. Let the record show that the motion passed. Next, we have a Chief Administrative Officer, and she's going to do the second reading of the property tax ordinance.
An ordinance providing for and making the real property, personal property, motor vehicle, and watercraft tax levy for city purposes for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2023 and ending June 30, 2024 inclusive. Whereas the City Council for the City of Georgetown, Kentucky is required by KRS 92.280 to enact by ordinance each year a tax levy on all real property, personal property, motor vehicles, and watercraft. Now therefore be it ordained by the City Council for the City of Georgetown, Kentucky as follows. Section 1. The following tax levy is hereby made for city purposes for the City of Georgetown, Kentucky for the fiscal year July 1, 2023 and ending June 30, 2024 inclusive to wit. For the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2023 and ending June 30, 2024 inclusive, there is hereby made a tax levy of 6.2 cents on each $100 of assessed real property, 6.2 cents on each $100 of assessed personal property, and 16.8 cents on each $100 of assessed motor vehicles and watercraft, which tax proceeds shall be designated to the general fund for the general operation of city government. Section 2. All matters relating to the payment of the taxes imposed on motor vehicles and watercraft hereunder shall be in accordance with KRS Chapter 134-800. Section 3. That upon all taxes for real property and personal property levied herewith, which are unpaid on January 1, 2024, there shall begin to accrue, attach, and be added from said date a flat penalty of 15% onto the total amount of said taxes then due and payable through January 31st, 2024, after which the flat penalty shall be 20%. Additionally, tax bills not paid before March 1, 2024 shall have added to them interest at the rate of 1% per month or fraction of a month until said taxes are paid. The penalty and interest as provided herein shall be added to said unpaid taxes and collected by the city finance director and or the city clerk. Should the real or personal property tax herein become delinquent, the city financial officer, the city clerk, and or the city attorney are authorized to file suit to collect all delinquent taxes plus court costs and expenses, including a reasonable attorney fee incurred by reason of the delinquency. If any section, subsection, sentence, clause, or phrase of this ordinance is held unconstitutional or otherwise invalid, such infirmity shall not affect the validity of the remaining portions of this ordinance. Section 5. All ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict with this ordinance are hereby repealed. Section 6. This ordinance shall take effect after its passage and publication according to law. Public introduced and read for the first time September 25th, 2023. Public read the second time October 9th, 2023.
At this time, is there a motion?
Motion, Mayor.
Motion is made by Mr. Allen.
I'll second.
Second made by Ms. Brent. Other discussion and or questions? At this time, we have to take a roll call vote. Madam Clerk?
Mrs. Tackett?
Yes.
Mr. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Showalter?
Yes.
Mr. Hampton?
Yes.
Mrs. Hambrick?
Yes.
Mrs. Butcher Conway?
Yes.
Mrs. Wilkins Brent?
Yes.
Mr. Allen?
Yes.
Let the record show that the motion has passed. Next, first reading of the zone change ordinance, 529 East Washington Street. Sponsors are Sonia Wilkins Brent and Millie Butcher Conway.
An ordinance changing the zoning classification of certain real property containing approximately 0.56 plus or minus acres located at 529 East Washington Street, Georgetown, Scott County, Kentucky, from R2 to P1. Summary: 1. Rezones approximately 0.56 plus or minus acres located at 529 East Washington Street, Georgetown, Scott County, Kentucky, from R2 to P1. 2. Provides for repeal of inconsistent law, severability of provisions, and an effective date upon passage and publication. The full text of this ordinance is available for examination in the City Clerk's Office, 629 North Broadway, Georgetown, Kentucky, 40324, or at www.georgetownky.gov. Publicly introduced and read for the first time October 9th, 2023.
Thank you. Next, we have the city engineer who's going to come and say the municipal order approving amendment to leak eliminators contract.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Item A under paragraph 11 is the municipal order approving amendment to leak eliminators contract. We have an existing contract for stormwater repair work, televising of storm sewers, cleaning of storm sewers. And we discovered we have about 40 water quality units within the system that need to be cleaned out. And we had an item in there for light cleaning, but we're discovering that the clean out required is much heavier. The sumps are much larger than we had previously thought. And so we are requesting a change order to cover the cost of cleaning out those units, many of which have never been cleaned out to my knowledge. And they are units that operate similar to a septic tank or a oil water separator that you see in restaurants, where you're pulling the floatables, the plastic cups and things like that out of the water, and also heavy solids, gravel and that sort of thing that comes off through the storm water. They get captured within those units. And periodically you have to clean them out to keep them operating correctly. So the change order is an item under that unit price contract to cover that scope of work, as you see in the documentation that I provided.
Motion, Mayor.
Motion is made by Ms. Tackett,
I second.
second made by Ms. Conway. Are there questions or discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say likewise. Let the record reflect that the motion passed. B, resolution approving North Water Street parking layout.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor. We have discovered that cars have been stacking up on North Water Street as they try to pull out next to Galvin's Restaurant onto the main street there. And so we came up with a plan to change how the parking would operate over there. We would have parking only on the one side of the street and not allow parking on the other side of the street to free up the cars, allow them to get out easier, and especially during peak traffic times, we're having a log jam of traffic right in there. And so the layout that you see is in that graphic that we attached with the your packets to pull back the first space away from 460, and the idea is to let cars who are making a right get out and have enough room where they're not stacking up over there. So the resolutions are there for you all to consider and hopefully approve.
So, Eddie, how many
Yes, sir.
spaces will you eliminate?
12?
One.
One?
Yeah. But, well, one on the side that we're gonna allow parking.
Yes,
Yes.
Yeah, I noticed on your map as well at 110 North Water, which I believe is the building to the side of Galvin's.
Yes.
I believe the Galvins own that. You've got X's in front of that.
Right, those are spots that we would not allow parking where those X's are.
On the street.
Yes.
So, but they've got a parking lot for that building.
No, not in the parking lot, on the street.
Just on the street.
Yeah, they can pull in the,
Okay.
just on the street parking. We're having some problems with traffic over there. Yeah.
I actually did speak to the dentist about it. I actually showed them preliminary back when we started talking about it. They were absolutely for it because it gets so crazy around lunchtime
Yeah.
and at night.
Yeah, we've had a lot of complaints about it.
So this is eliminating one parking spot.
Yeah, we pull one back from closest up to 460 on that side of the street. Yeah. Now, on the other side,
But over here.
there's not going to be parking
Oh,
allowed.
there's no parking on that side at all
Okay,
because
on
of
the- on
safety
the-
reasons.
Yeah, on the east
Get
side.
emergency vehicles through and stuff like that. It's not wide
Did
enough.
you look at the possibility of, if you allow parking on the other side, could you get more parking on the other side and not park on the west side?
Yeah, I mean, we looked at a whole number of different options. This was something that, it was a collaborative effort to come up with this. We thought it would work best.
You see what I'm asking?
If we can, no.
If, I don't think so. So it just looks like on the picture here that there's a lot of X's down that whole line. I was just curious how many parking spots that would be versus what's on the other side.
Yeah, it's a little,
That's gone, well.
are you talking about on
Yeah,
towards the back?
Eddie, he's asking that if, instead of prohibiting parking on the east side of the street, what if you prohibited it on the west side and created parking on the east side? And I think what I hear Robert saying is if you've gone down there, there's no curb on the east side at all. So it's not really an ideal parking space in general. I think people are more inclined to park on the west side regardless. At least that's what I've observed in the 6 months we've been over there.
I think there's off-street parking on the east side as well, that you wouldn't be able to put parking on that side anyway.
Because you'd block the entrances.
You would
Once
block
the new
entrances
Justice
for the
Building's
parking.
built, that's gonna eliminate a lot of
Yeah, the Justice Center's going in that,
street parking there
a big bunch of that over there.
as well.
And if I'm not mistaken, that would take it almost all the way down close to that curve starts in there. Is that correct? Or how far would you go up that side?
Only down to Washington.
I'm not sure
It's only going down to Washington as far as parking on the west side.
Okay.
And on the east side, there's no parking. And then when you get past Washington Street, there's no parking on either side of that because that road narrows.
Yeah.
This makes it even less
Is that,
safer.
I'm talking about where the curve is at? Is that what we're talking about? No parking spots. We have some, I guess, open space down there in land, I think the city owns.
We do.
And I'm just thinking about that, so we're not putting anything there. Is that
No,
correct?
no. That would be something for like a future consideration if
Okay.
you were looking for an
And
overflow parking
possibly
area.
make that a parking area where
Yeah.
that can be itself, if we don't find any other good use for it, actually putting parking spots in there.
Yeah, that's a city-owned property in
Yep.
there, and it's
Thank you.
It's in the floodplain, you could use it for
Okay.
parking.
Well, do I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion made by Ms. Tackett. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second made by Mr. Showalter. Are there further discussion and/or questions? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say likewise. Let the record reflect that this motion has passed. Next is the resolution accepting the KLC liability grant.
Yeah, I want to thank a lot of people, Patrick, Shay in my office, and Devin. They worked to get this grant application in, and it's for sidewalks, so that's a good thing. And it's asking for acceptance of the grant in the amount of $3,000 for sidewalk repairs.
Motion, Mayor. Second.
Motion's made by Ms. Tackett, second made by Ms. Conway. Are there questions and/or discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say likewise. Let the record reflect that the motion passed. Number 12, the Fire Department. Resolution accepting the Kentucky Office of Homeland Security grant funding of $176,000.
Mayor, Council, I'd like for your consideration to accept this grant. Assistant Chief Seth Johnson applied for this. We're getting away from Northern Kentucky Hazmat Group. We're part of the Bluegrass Emergency Response Team. Us being able to get this grant, being able to purchase our own vehicle, be able to supply it with what we need, not only be a resource here locally, but within our response areas with this other team.
Do I have a motion?
Motion, Mayor.
Motion is made by Mr. Stone.
I'll second.
Second made by Ms. Brent. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say likewise. Let the record reflect that this motion passed. Next, we have council comments. And I'm going to start today with Mr. Allen.
I figured you would. I'm gonna put on Lori's glasses I had to borrow. So, Mayor, thank you for your comments today, the state of the city. It was very informative and educational. Appreciate that, and hopefully everybody got a lot of information out of that. When do you think we will be able to see the committee reports circulated back out to all the committee members?
We should have done it. If not, we'll get that.
Yeah, So the practice of being better about the committee minutes has just started up. I think the goal is for the reports during the council meeting to kind of shorten in length, but those will be circulated. So once they go back to the committee, they'll be approved, but we'll circulate them in draft format after the meetings, so we can get those out. They'll be coming from Mayor's assistant, Wendy Robinson, but we'll kind of watermark those draft because they'll need to be approved at the next meetings, but I'll get those out tomorrow.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. And there's someone brought to my attention that there's some business signage that is in disarray throughout Georgetown. So went through and he sent me some pictures of some business signs that have been pretty bad shape for a long time. So I will forward those pictures on to you. I went through and took some additional pictures, so I will forward those to you. And we did get those cleaned up because as people are coming through our community, if they're seeing signs that are bad shape and have been like that for a while, it shows a bad image on our community.
I think I can get those to Eddie and you all and Robert. Once I get those, we'll get those to you all, and that's where it needs to go. Okay?
That's all.
Thank you, sir.
What?
You're talking about like private signs?
Business signs, yes, just.
Okay.
There's some of them in bad shape and have been like that for quite some time.
Okay.
But I'll send the pictures to you guys so you see what I'm talking about.
All right, Mr. Stone.
Thank you, Mayor. You did a great job today on your speech. Very informative. A lot of the those in attendance were speaking well of it, so good job. Want to wish a couple of our middle schools, Georgetown Middle School and Royal Springs Middle School, good luck in the upcoming state middle school football playoffs. Both 7th and 8th grade teams from both schools will be playing in that tournament, so wish them the best of luck. We talked about the night out at Ed Davis Park with the police departments on October 14th. Parks and Rec is doing tricks and treats on October 20th at the Ed Davis Learning Center from 4:30 until 10, as well as the 21st of Halloween at Royal Springs Park from 5:30 to 6:30. And for anyone that's interested, they are doing a pre-course for lifeguards at the pavilion on October the 23rd from 5 to 6. So they are always in need of lifeguards, so that would be something good for those that are in need of a job that they could look at and possibly do. So other than that, that's all I've got.
So do you have to be able to swim to be a lifeguard? Oh.
Well, you did, so.
Okay, I just want to make sure that's that's a prerequisite. I don't, used to, they just have to reach out a pole at you and say, oh, here you go. Last chance right here. Okay, next. Mrs. Showalter.
Our fire committee meeting last month was rescheduled, I guess. We're gonna, because we had a scheduling conflict, which is fine. So the one big item I've got, again, out of respect for Mrs. Brent, I think I want to wait until we have our fire committee meeting in in just a few short weeks, and November will be here. But anyway, that's all I've got. I think just out of common courtesy, I want to talk to her and Chief Thompson and his staff. So I'm going to hold off right now.
Okay. Mr. Hampton.
Mayor, congratulations on your first State of the City address. It was great hearing it and a lot of good information. The only other thing I have is Finance Committee meeting next Monday at 8 o'clock at the Georgetown Police Department.
I gotta work on that. That's too early. Ms. Hamburg.
And I want to remind people that all of the committee meetings are open to the public. They're not question and answer, but people are invited to come, and since we are talking about a lot of revenue stream issues, and I think we had good deliberation tonight with a lot of transparency that we're just in a fact-finding mode. These finance committee meetings are important, and feel free to attend them. Mayor did a good job today. I think that the community and the chamber it was a packed house, and everybody got a good look at all of the things that each of our departments are doing and doing well. So thank you for that. I do want to say that city engineer Eddie gave me a map of, I've been talking about the need for crosswalks by Galvin's and Water Street, and they were in the original plan. If you want to speak to that, because I've got the map now, and maybe a timeline of when they would be put in.
Yeah, so the construction plan that I brought you shows all the way around all four ways, crosswalks for pedestrian traffic. So that will go in when they resurface over the bridge. I don't know when resurfacing is. I'm hoping it'll be this year, but that's being done by the state at no cost to the city, which is good. And they will put in, after they put the new surface down, then they'll put down that bitumastic
Well,
material.
Yeah, thank you for including that, because there are a lot of pedestrians, and,
Yeah.
and I think that traffic will be mindful and,
Yeah.
and stop, and it'll be a safer.
Yeah, so that'll go in. Yeah, that will go in. It's just, it's not there now.
Okay.
So, thanks for your patience.
Yep, thank
Yeah.
you. And I just want to be mindful of, as a city and as a nation tonight, that we are in a place where 11 Americans have died and many have been taken hostage, and I know that we're all concerned for each other, whether it's local, state, or national, and it's a trying time. Thank you, Mayor.
Ms. Brent?
Thank you for this morning, at your address. That was very good. Proud of you. Proud to say that, you know, you're the mayor of Georgetown. Want to thank all the local restaurant owners that came out to listen. I know a lot of people have reached out to us, but I'm glad you came to listen, and we're not going to move forward, like you said, without your input, and appreciate you coming. I don't think, I had something else, but I can't. I'm still tired. I just came home from vacation from Florida. I'm with grandchildren, so.
Well, there you go.
I'm sorry, but thank you all for coming out tonight, and I hope we can find other ways to bring in revenue and discuss some more ideas, impact fees and different things like that.
Ms. Brent, that's called sometimers.
Thank you.
Okay.
I'm getting there.
All right. Ms. Conway.
Okay. I also want to congratulate you on a good speech and a lot of good information you gave us. I am happy that you all are here, the restaurant owners, to come to listen to some information that we need, and we need to get more from you. I did have a meeting with Jailer Burles about beautification, and I'm on the committee in Georgetown. I'm excited about some of the things that were brought up. We're going to meet again in about another week. We're going to meet for every 2 weeks for a while till we get some plans going. Basically, we're not going to spend any money, a lot of money. We're going to have some labor that's going to come from the jail, and we're also going to try to do a massive cleanup on some areas that don't look so good when you're coming off the interstate at 125 into Georgetown. We need to help that, and I would really like some larger signs like we have near the railroad bridge of, well, you know, Georgetown, Scott County. It's a nice sign, but it needs to be about 4 times that big. You know, it's kind of small. You know, you got to look quick when you're driving. But I'm happy to be on this committee, and I think it's going to make a difference and make the entrances and areas and cleanups in the parks and places like that. It's going to help. So I'm happy to be on that committee. So
And the committee that she's talking about, that one of the initiatives is that we're trying to make Georgetown more attractive at a low cost, and so we put this subcommittee together where we ran it through Public Works and others, where we wanted to get some help from Jailer Burles and put a committee together, a subcommittee together that is made up of community leaders. And also I had a couple of students I put on there from the high school. I got one from Great Crossings and one from Scott County High School to want our youth to also get some buy-in as to what we're doing and have some say-so on that. So that's what the committee she's talking about, that we're trying to beautify Georgetown and some needs that we can do that's not going to be costly to us, and that we can do that. We're talking about even there's some issues with, some of these trees hiding some of the telephone wires to which Eddie's going to contact on that and even get some of those taken care of. Last but not least.
Do you know what we put in the budget for beautification? Stacy, do you know?
We don't have a specific beautification budget. I mean, we have public works.
I think we have about 15,000 special projects.
Okay.
That's
Yeah, thank you.
But once again, though, a lot of that we shouldn't have to touch because of, some of the labor and stuff that's going to be coming from them, which is that. All right, I think you're it. We're done.
I just want to piggyback on what everybody said. Good job today. It was a packed house, very informative, and I do appreciate our restaurant owners. And y'all's food's good.
Yes, it is.
And it was very informative, and I look forward to gathering more information. And that's all I've got, Mayor. Thank you.
And I just remembered, I just want to say
Yes,
thank you to
remember?
Lori for getting the information together again.
Okay.
Mayor,
Very
I'm,
informative.
I'm,
No, I'm done.
you done? I did forget one thing. Would it be possible, in a future council meeting to get an update on City Hall, where we're at?
Yes, we can do that. We'll get that for you. Yes, I'll do that and see where we are. I meant to do that. That's on my to-do list. Again, thank you all for your patience, and thank you all for being here tonight. I'm glad that you were able to hear firsthand what we're trying to do. And hold on, Mr. Allen, I'm not done yet. Yeah, looks like some of these kids in the classroom want to get up and leave. So, with no further business, this meeting is now adjourned.
He says his back is locking up.
He's like some kid in the classroom.